Hey, what's up? My name is Tyson Brown and I want to welcome you to Tyson's Fitness Tips podcast. This is Australia's top health and fitness podcast to help you lose weight, look good with your shirt off, feel confident in your body, and finally achieve the goals you want with your health and fitness. So 5 days a week, I'm going to be giving you top information from myself and also from leading experts in the field so you know everything you need to do to get in the best shape of your life. From nutrition to mindset to workout, everything is covered in this podcast and you need to go nowhere else. So like I said, it's going to be 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, in your ears with quick actionable segments that you can implement straight away, because the most important thing is that you can put these things into play. Also, if you listen all the way to the end of the episode, you're going to get 2 special gifts that you can download upon listening to it. So make sure you listen all the way to the end to get those free gifts, okay? So let's get into the episode. So, David, thank you so much for coming onto the show today, mate. I really appreciate it. Now, for people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about more about yourself and kind of what you do?
Sure. Well, I own a gym called the Movement Minneapolis in Minnesota, and we're kind of a unique training gym. So we're kind of small group based, but we individualize everyone's programming kind of on the fly using this biofeedback system that I was not smart enough to come up with, but I was smart enough to recognize the value of, and was like really one of the earliest adopters and earliest teachers of it. So we train all kinds of people, general population, like just regular folks, but we've also become really well known for having a really big, really successful and really fun powerlifting team. So just like tons of regular people come in and end up seeing how fun it looks to do a powerlifting meet, and then they end up doing one or more powerlifting meets. So that's kind of what our gym is known for. And then, like I said, like I'm known for teaching the biofeedback. I've taught basically all around the world. I was in Sydney 3 years ago, something like that, teaching biofeedback. And basically it's a way to objectively, we talk a lot in fitness about listening to your body, but we don't talk about how to actually do that. What does that actually mean to develop that intuition? And so the biofeedback system is kind of an objective way to tune that intuition and learn how to actually do that, rather than just being this sort of nebulous idea that, like, yeah, of course, sounds great in theory to listen to your body, but if you tell most people that, they don't know what it means, especially if there's someone who's never really worked out before or been in tune with their body, and that's why they're coming to you for fitness advice in the first place.
Oh man, that sounds really cool. It's funny, like, you've used this special technique to build super fucking strong people, and I think strength training is like an important thing in these days. Like, not to get ridiculously strong like a powerlifter, but just having overall body strength and being physically strong is a big factor just in overall life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you pretty much, like, as a fact, that I have people in my gym who are alive today only because the strength training that they did gave them extra capacity to carry them through, a pretty serious health crisis, like more than one person. It really, really does. And something I talk about a lot is, like, if you were to opt out of like modern society and you were to go back to being like a hunter-gatherer and you had to do daily labor just to survive, you'd probably be okay without a gym. But the reality is, like, in modern society, it's almost something you have to do to just do like daily maintenance for your body, because there are just stimuli that we are intended to have and just don't have in modern life anymore. So it's kind of a necessary thing, and it's really great to be active and hiking and go for a run around the lake, but it's not the same thing as intentionally doing some sort of weight training and getting stronger.
Yeah, man, and it's just like, there's that physical component, but it's also the mental component too, like being able to develop yourself mentally through strength training. Like, you realize how that actually applies to other areas of your life too. And so like you said, you know, some people wouldn't be alive with the health point of view, but even like just getting through tough times, when you have that strength training, when you've put effort into something like that and you've developed a skill and you've got stronger, like you're able to apply that just in other areas of your life mentally too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, talking about that, Dave, like,
Absolutely.
so you mentioned biofeedback, but like, what the hell is biofeedback?
Yeah, so let's talk about that real quick. So basically, as a general term, biofeedback is using some sort of quantifiable insight into how the systems of your body are working to then make a change based on that. So let's say the most obvious example that most people have probably experienced before is using a heart rate monitor with like a cardio workout. So it might be that you use the heart rate monitor, you see that your heart rate is over a certain zone. So that's your insight into the system of the body. And then you take your pace down, or you walk, or you rest to bring your heart rate down. And then when it gets down to a certain level, you see that, and then you make an adjustment to your training, and that's the feedback part of it. You start running again, or you pick up the pace. And that, in a nutshell, is a biofeedback in practice. You're getting this insight into the system, and then you're making changes based on it. And the way we apply it is that we use range of motion, just a general movement range of motion. So you pick one that kind of gives you an insight into the whole body. Most people use a toe touch. It's just really, really simple to execute, really repeatable. You can use other ones, but that's the one we gravitate towards. And you use that toe touch to assess your response to different exercises. So kind of like in the heart rate example, you're changing your pace. You're going faster or slower to adjust your heart rate. With biofeedback with strength training, you're basically taking a range of motion test and saying, you know, does this squat or does this deadlift make my range of motion better or worse? And if it makes your range of motion worse, that's an indication that your body isn't responding well to that movement at that moment. So you change something. So let's say the squat doesn't work. You test out the deadlift, you get an increase in your range of motion, and that's kind of a green light that you're responding well to that exercise. And what's cool about it is you can use it in a really wide range. You can use it to determine if you should squat, deadlift, or push or pull, but then you can even do variations, and then you can even test your weights. So like I can give you a quick example of that. This month, I've been doing something that I call the Million Pound November Challenge. And it's something I actually haven't even completed I think the last time I did it was 2010. So it's been a while.
Ooh, yeah, it's been 8 years.
Is to lift 1 million pounds. What's that?
I said, wow, it's been nearly 8 years.
Yeah, I know. Time flies. So you lift 1 million pounds of total training volume over the course of a month. So if you break that down, you're looking at 33,000 pounds of volume every single day.
Wow.
And just to give you people a little bit of context, if they're not used to keeping track of volume, which is something you should do, it's really important. Most people's workouts end up being around 10 to 15,000 pounds of volume, like almost inevitably, whether it's like a circuit workout or you're a power lifter and you're lifting really heavy, but resting a lot. It's funny. It works out to be around 10 or 15. And so to contextualize that, you're obviously doing essentially double a normal workout of volume every single day for a month, or, you know, even more. So then you can rest some days. And so that's what I've been doing this month. And the other day I went in the gym. I was on, I think, day 8 of not having taken a day off. And I decided I would squat 2 1/4, a little bit heavier for fewer reps. Just seemed like it would be good to squat a little bit heavier. And for me, 225 is not, or like 100 kilos is not a ton normally, but obviously when you're doing that kind of volume, you have to scale everything down. And the movement tested well for me. I loaded up half the weight, that tested fine. And as soon as I did the first set at 2 1/4, I knew that I could not continue. And sure enough, I tested it and it did not test well. My range of motion was way worse. So I brought that weight back down, and then it tested well again, and I was able to do 100 reps at 135, no problem. But the biofeedback led me away from something that very likely would have ended up with me hurt if I would have continued doing that 225. And that's something I've seen over almost a decade of teaching this now, that people will kind of really have their heart set on doing something and they'll ignore the biofeedback testing, and that inevitably ends up being the day that they get hurt.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine like the amount of times where people go into the gym and they do something like, I knew I shouldn't have done it that day, and that's inevitably the day where something breaks, it falls apart.
Exactly. And that's the thing I'm talking about, is like, everybody kind of knows that they shouldn't have done it, but they don't have an objective system to help them understand, okay, what's the difference between the day that I really shouldn't do this and the day that I just don't want to, and it just doesn't, it doesn't feel great. And that's what using an objective test like your range of motion can give you. It takes it away from, well, how does this feel, to how am I actually responding to this? Good or bad? Should I continue or should I not? And it's transformative in training. And to the point you made earlier, it's transformative in life, because what I find that people do when they join my gym is they start using the biofeedback in their training. But what's happening on a kind of a bigger level is they're starting to really look at and associate, how am I responding to things? Like, is this good for me or is this bad for me? And inevitably, they end up going to their job and realizing, wow, this job is really terrible for me. Like, I objectively respond negatively to what I'm doing every single day. And they quit their job and go do something else. Or, they make these big life changes, and it all kind of starts from that spark of strength training with biofeedback.
It's so funny you say that, because I was talking to my podcast guest last week, Amanda Wheeler, and we were talking about like the ROI in your life.
Yeah, Wheels.
Yeah, and we were actually talking. We were talking about something like that. Like just kind of take an objective measure to think like, how is this actually serving me at the moment? Like, is this in this context? Like, is it making me feel good? Is it making me feel bad? What adjustments do I need to make? And when you start using that, like I said, that feedback to objectively look at things in your life, like, you make better decisions and you're going to be better off for it.
Yep, absolutely. I've noticed really amazing transformations in my clients. And, part of it is just strength training in general. But a big part of it is connecting that sensation to action and being like, okay, how does this make me feel? How am I responding to it? And what can I do based on it? Another thing that's been really cool through this month is asking some of the members. So to go back to the £1 million thing, several years ago, I turned it into a challenge for the gym, where instead of doing it as an individual, because it really is like a massive undertaking that most people are not going to be able to handle, but we break the gym into teams. This year we did teams of 6, and as a team, they have to hit 1 million. So that was, okay. I think if you had a team of 6, on average, if you were working out 12 times during the month, so, 3 times a week, just a very reasonable schedule. I think it was, I can't remember, either 12 or 16,000 pounds of volume, 12 times a month. So a really reasonable workout, but they had to be consistent. Like, they couldn't show up 6 times. They had to be really, really consistent. And I had one guy do really like take it on big time, and I think he's done 500,000 pounds of volume by himself this month. But I was asking him, I said, so what have you noticed? Not feeding him anything, just what do you notice? And he said, well, I've noticed I've been really tired. Like, sometimes I'm at my desk at work and I'm just tired, like I could fall asleep. And that's not good, bad. It's just an observation that if he hadn't been connecting how he feels to what he's doing, he never would have thought about. And that's like a data point that now he has, and he kind of knows about himself. When I train this much, I need more recovery and I feel more tired. And it's okay that I feel tired. It's not that there's anything wrong. It's just that I've been doing more, so my capacity is kind of decreased and I probably need to get more sleep.
It's like I'm just quiet for a second, because like you explained that so simply and clearly, but like you don't think about that stuff until, like you said, you do take it doesn't take long either to just kind of step back and go like, so how are you feeling at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. Just asking the question.
And so, like, I'm still kind of stuck on this one question, David. Like, where did you come from the £1 million from? Like, where did that number come from?
I think, honestly, I don't even know if I can take credit for that. The idea came up maybe, I don't know if 2010 was the first time I tried. It probably was. I think Adam T. Glass used to be a training partner of mine, and he's an amazing grip strength, hand strength athlete. I think he might have come up with it. He was like, dude, what would happen if you lifted 1 million pounds in a month? And so, we kind of like sat down with the calculator and you're like, well, okay, it's this much per day. I mean, yeah, like it's achievable. It's one of those numbers. Like 1 million is just such a significant kind of benchmark number. But it's really achievable. And I will note one thing that's kind of interesting about it. It's not the kind of thing that scales for women, right? Like it just, 1 million is 1 million. You can't, but at the same time, on average, like it's going to be easier for a man to achieve 1 million pounds. It just is. Like in general, the weights are heavier. But one of my trainers at the gym she's on track to do 900,000 this month.
Whoa.
Which is absolutely astonishing to me. And what's cool about it is she's kind of inched up every year for the past, I think she's been doing it for 4 years. It was like, 400 the first year, 600 the next year, 700 the next. And then this year she's hit 900. There's really no reason to think that she won't hit 1 million next year. And I don't know of a woman that's ever done it. So that's kind of a cool little tidbit too. It's totally achievable by, I would say, almost anyone. You do have to be fairly strong. Like I would say, like you need to be the type of person who can do like a double body weight deadlift, maybe on average, just to be able to hit that kind of volume. Because if you have to do 1,000 reps of anything in a workout, you're going to be pretty smoked. Whereas the weights that I can move, my workouts might be 400 to 600 total reps, spread out over different exercises. But it's amazing, man. Like I've seen huge changes in my body composition in just a month, and I'm basically just eating my face off because I'm always hungry.
I can only imagine. Jesus, that's an epic feat. I love hearing about that. That's very cool. And for her to be able to, work up to that over the years, like you said, like, you've got to put in time, you've got to put in effort, but that's like, she's applying progressive overload, very, very like small increments over time. And it's definitely paying off, even though it's like a longer form progressive overload. Like she's clearly getting stronger, getting more results and getting close to that number.
Absolutely. And that's what it should be all about. Like not what can you do in the next 8 weeks? It's like, what can you do over the next several years?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's always having that long-term picture. And then speaking about that, so we just strength training in general. Why is that? Like we see all these things on Instagram at the moment. Like I don't know if you ever go through the little search function where it shows like all the most popular stuff, and it's people doing like bullshit exercises, doing all these crazy things, and you look at them and you're like, and a lot of people, I don't know if they ask you, but I get a lot of questions like, hey, do you think this is a good exercise, or do you think this? But it's like, stick to the basics. Like you need to be getting stronger on those big fundamental movements, and it's because they work. Like, what's your opinion with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple different sides of that. The problem is that everybody needs and wants to make their mark. They want to like invent the new version, or they want to come up with the goofiest exercises so that they can be the authority on those things. Because at the end of the day, like you're saying, the fundamentals of squatting, deadlifting, pull-ups, presses, just really, really simple fundamentals. Well, there's only so much you can say about those, and it's really hard to become a go-to expert on squats and deadlifts and pushes and pulls because, I mean, they're just basics, So you see like the latest like video, artificial intelligence technology for exercises and like all this stuff. Everyone's trying to make a mark or make money off of it. And then at the end of the day, it's really truly the simplest stuff that actually moves the needle. One of my favorite kind of trainers in this space, I'm sure you know Ben Bruno.
Yes.
Ben's a good friend of mine, and he trains celebrities, like no shit celebrities, like movie stars and like A-list. Chelsea Handler is one of his main clients. And if you watch the videos that he posts, it's all deadlifts and split squats and prowler pushes and, overhead presses and pull-ups and nothing more. Like no fancy, crazy stuff, no crazy equipment, just the absolute fundamental basics. And he's been really good about putting that message out there that like, you want to get lean and tone and all those keywords that people use in the magazines. Well, here's the fundamental basic exercises you should be doing: deadlifting, squatting, pushing, pulling. It's unfortunately physiology is what it is, and it responds to these things that were invented who knows how long ago, and there's nothing better out there. No one's going to come up with this amazing new piece of workout technology that's going to change the game more than a simple deadlift does. It's just not going to happen.
That's so true. And I think because it looks so cool and it looks so exciting, people want to get drawn to that. But it's like, hey, look, I know you might be getting bored with what you're doing at the moment, but I can guarantee you, like, it may, even though it's boring, doesn't mean it's not working at the day. Because like lifting heavy shit is hard, but doing it over and over again and getting stronger is going to give you very good body composition results at the end of the day. And you've just got to be willing to put in that little bit of work to be able to actually see the results, instead of getting caught up in like, oh, today I'm going to do push-ups and I'm going to do squats on a BOSU ball and all this bullshit stuff. It's like, mate, just stick to the basics. I can guarantee you, if you get stronger at those movements, for things that we were designed to, for a whole evolution, what we've been designed to do, you're going to make such more progress in the long run.
Absolutely. And I tell people, I'm like, look, if training is fun to you and you find a way to make it fun, that's really great. And I'm happy. But it doesn't have to be fun. You know what? Like, not everything we do is fun. Brushing your teeth is not fun. It's not like, oh my God, I found this new way to brush my teeth. It's so much more exciting. You just do it. And the reality is, and I know this is probably unappealing to some people, but the reality is you just have to do this. And even if it's not fun, put in the work, because it's kind of taking your medicine. Like, it's going to benefit you more than it would to try to find some magical thing that you love doing. And it just can't always be fun. And some of those things that are fun they're just not the same. Like I talked about before, like hiking and running and the things that people say like, oh, I don't need to go to the gym because I'm quote unquote active. All that stuff is great, and I'm glad you enjoy it, but it's not the same as progressive intelligent strength training. It's just not.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like I've obviously gone to do hikes and things like that before, and just don't. But I always find myself being brought back to the barbell and doing strength training. It's just like there's something about it. It's tough, it's grueling, but there's nothing else that's like that. Like you said, there's nothing else like it.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Some sort of resistance training, whether it's just, you only have dumbbells or you only have kettlebells or you only have a barbell, but, that's not the same as contorting you into different positions with 2-pound weights or whatever. I actually have a good friend who reached out to me the other day, and she's like, I'm basically like, I have the opposite problem of most women. Like, I can't stop losing weight. I actually want to gain a little bit of weight. I don't even like how I look at this point right now. Like, what do I do? And I was like, well, what are you doing for workouts? And, I'm doing Pilates and bar. And I'm like, cool. I'm glad you enjoy that. I'm going to need you to lift some weights. Because the reality is, like, she just needs that stimulus of tension on the joints and muscles that the limited weights of those methods cannot achieve. And that is going to allow her to eat stuff that her body then converts into useful muscle tissue.
Yeah, man, it's a I don't know. I'd just say it's like, such an important thing that I think most people listening to this, they do it, but it's just like focusing on what's going to get them the best results. So like, we don't have to sell them the strength training, on the workout per se, but it's like, getting stronger is one important thing. And secondly, it's like focusing on those big compound fundamental movements. And when you do that, everything else is going to kind of fall into place.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if you did nothing other than like, I sound like a broken record, but if you did nothing other than deadlift and pull-ups one day and squat and press another day for the rest of your life, and you just progressively change that load and maybe change the variations a tiny bit, you'd be good. You'd never have to come up with a single other, fancy gimmick of any kind.
There you go. So David, we've talked about biofeedback. We've talked about being in tune with your body, why strength is so important. But one thing you mentioned a little bit earlier, which I just remembered, is about training volume. So like, like so many people, like if you walk into a commercial gym right now, I can guarantee you there might be one person, maybe two, with an actual notepad or on their phone putting in the weights they're using and how much volume they're using. So why is that such a big important factor to be able to track?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And to the logical extension of that, the other people are probably doing the same 3 sets of 10 that they've been doing for 3 years, of the exercises that a trainer taught them, 3 or a half a decade ago. So, the training notebook is absolutely huge. I just give people very, very basics, like write down the exercise you did, write down the weight you did it at, and then write down each set that you do, 5 reps, 6 reps, 5 reps, 4 reps, whatever. And then ideally write down the time it took you to do that total set. And then the next time you come into the gym, flip back to that notebook, or the next time you're going to do that exercise, and go, how can I do this a little bit better than last time? And that may be as simple as adding 1 rep on the first set. Instead of doing 5 reps, you do 6. And everything else is the same. You still hit a PR. And then the next time, maybe you go 6, 6, 6. It's just a couple of reps different, but you still are hitting a PR. And that kind of thing is almost impossible to do unless you have a notebook. Nobody can remember that.
It's funny because like you look at people and you see them, like I said, you see them doing the same sets of 3 sets of 10 at the same weight. If it's even the same weight, you've got so much on your mind all the time, and like you cannot be expected to think about how much weight you did last time for how many sets for how many reps. Like that's a lot of information to keep in your head, and that's why you said keeping it written down or in your notes or whatever it is such an important thing. And it just blows me away that so many more people don't know about that, and they wonder why they can't, see results in their body. And it's because they aren't tracking if they're actually progressively overloading the time.
For sure. And I think the part of it is people just don't know how to do it. And that's why I like to give that method of just really, really simple. Just what you did, like the movement you did and how much of it you did. Sometimes people get crazy overboard with their notebook and they turn it into a diary, like writing down every detail. You probably don't need to know that, because those little changes that you make day to day are not necessarily important long term. What's important is being able to see progression.
For sure. In regards to saying seeing progression, that can be in many forms too. Like you said, that can be total volume. That can be obviously increasing your sets, increasing your reps, increasing the weight you're using on the bar. Any of those things are still progression in the long run. It's just accumulated all at the end of the day to see how much you're actually moving in a weight training session, and is that going up slowly over time?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about that really quickly on the point of volume. So the way a lot of people don't even know how to calculate volume, and you're basically just taking the weight you moved and multiplying it by the total number of reps. So just to do something really simple, let's say you squat 100 kilos for 20 total reps, right? You multiply 10 times 20, and that's your total volume for your squat. And then you add up all the volume for all of your exercises, and that's the total volume for your workout. I would say, if you're listening to this, if you do keep a notebook, great. Go back and do that for your last, like, let's say 2 weeks of workouts. If you don't already keep volume, and I bet you don't. And I would say try this. Double your volume going forward and just see what happens. Because like I said, I would wager most people are in the 10 to 15,000 pound range. And if you double that, you're going to start to see changes that you didn't know you were capable of. And doing that much more work is really not that much harder. You know, you're talking about adding a few sets to each exercise total. It's not a huge change, but it will make an enormous result in your progress, especially if you're frustrated and you feel kind of stuck with your progress. I'd bet that your training volume is actually pretty low. You have a lot more capacity in you. And if you up that, you're going to see changes happen really fast.
Yeah, especially like we go back to when you're doing chin-ups, deadlifts, squats, bench press, instead of doing bicep curls, tricep push-downs, single leg extensions, like those little things, you're going to notice how much quicker the volume goes up when you're actually using some heavy weights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So David, like one more thing, like when it comes to tracking your volume, make sure it's progressing over time. Like, do you give like a range of like how much you should be increasing over time, or is it as long as there's that small amount of increase, you know, whether it be another 100 or 200 pounds a week, is that like is that like enough volume to actually elicit change in the body? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So one thing you have to keep in mind is that your volume is always going to be undulating, and it's not you increase over time perpetually, right? So like 10 to 15 ends up being the range no matter how strong you are, because if you're way stronger, it limits the total amount of work that you can end up doing. So if you're, squatting or deadlifting 500-600, you're not going to be doing 100 reps of it like I've been doing in the million pound month. So it kind of equalizes. So what you want to see is a steady increase. Like you said, maybe even just a few 100 pounds per workout over the course of, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks. And then you actually want to see that volume come down as your weights go up, and then kind of keep undulating over time like that. You can't expect it to keep going up, because the actual weight that you're using should be going up as well. And then that's going to bring your volume down. So they kind of cancel each other out a little bit. But yeah, week to week, you only need to be seeing maybe a few hundred to a couple thousand pounds of volume increase. And then that's going to roll over and decrease as you increase the weights at the end of that cycle.
There you go. And guys, obviously a lot of you are listening in Australia, so that's not hundreds of kilos and thousands of kilos. It's going to be in that little bit of a lower range, but still making that progressive overload and seeing the total volume increase week by week is what's going to get you so far ahead.
Yep, exactly. And you could think of it, I know I've kind of gone back and forth between pounds and kilos, but you could think of it as a percentage thing. You know, like if you increase your volume somewhere between 5 and maybe 10% on the high end week to week, that would be a really good increase. And then again, resetting back down as the intensity or the actual weight that you're lifting goes up and brings the volume back down.
Of course, that makes total sense. David, dude, this is epic. We pretty much covered everything I really wanted to talk to you about, because, like, you know, you having this deep dive on the biofeedback and just talking about, like, you know, there are a lot of those people who talk about biofeedback and talk about being in tune with your body, but they don't have that same type of mentality when it comes to strength training, getting stronger. So having someone like you on the podcast, being able to combine it together, I think was like a really fun deep dive to go down. So I really appreciate you coming on today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me and having an opportunity to talk to your audience.
Yeah, for sure. And so where can people find more about you at the moment? You know, what's going on in your life? Have you got anything coming up, or what's been happening?
Yeah, so Dellanave.com is my website. I'm sure, Tyson, you can put it in the show notes or something like that. That's the easiest place to find my articles and my mailing list and stuff like that. I'm going to be doing a lot of workshops in 2019 all over. So if you're interested in either coming to a workshop or even potentially hosting a workshop at your gym, I rely on essentially gyms reaching out and saying, hey, you know, we've been using your stuff. Our members know of it, but we'd like to do a deep dive. let's have you out for a workshop. I kind of rely on that. So I love doing workshops. It's a full day seminar from morning to evening. And it's one of my favorite things to do because it ends up being really, really transformative for people. Like I get messages weeks and months and years later, and people say, hey, I came to your workshop. It totally opened up my mindset of like how I could approach my training. I don't feel like fearful and constrained by systems anymore. I know how to figure out what's good for me, what's not good for me, and how to progress that. So I really, really enjoy doing the workshops, and I'm looking forward to 2019 being a really busy year, but I'm still filling out that calendar. So if you're interested, reach out to me. I'm very easy to get a hold of on all the social medias, so holler at me.
Wicked, dude. I'm going to share all that in the show notes to you guys, so make sure to go have a look, check it out, see if David's coming to a place near you, or if you can even host him at your workshop, because I think this would be fucking awesome to be able to implement. So David, thank you so much again for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it, and I'll speak to you next time.
Yeah, thanks, Tyson. Talk to you soon, man.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. So now you've listened all the way to the end. That means you get some free goodies. So what you can do is you've got two different options, or you can take them both. I've got an intermittent fasting cheat sheet and a high protein 20 recipe meal guide designed specifically for you in your situation. These meal plans and this intermittent fasting guide is designed to help you burn stubborn belly fat and get in the best shape of your life. So all you have to do is go to the show notes, click on the download link, and they'll get sent straight to your email address. It's as simple as that. They're completely free. They're gonna help you transform your body. So go to the show notes now and download your free guides, and I'll speak to you in the next episode.